Yeah, I'm David Isaacs. I live in Hope. In the current climate, I would greatly value politicians standing up for Israel. Are the candidates aware of the pledge for Israel? If they are, are they willing to pledge? If not, what would their sticking point be? And I haven't got the points, but I'm trying to save time.
I think that, in fact, the candidates have, I think, all been given them. Thank you. I will take a number of questions and then we'll open it to the floor. Anyone else? Wow, I am. Yes, Eileen. Eileen, anything there?
Eileen Field. In light of what happened on Friday and speaking to the previous question, Israel deals with what happened here on Friday on a daily basis. If Israel had done what the police quite rightly did on Friday, Israel would have been castigated for it. Can the candidates, thank you, can the candidates give us some feedback on that, please?
Brian and then Robert
Hello, my name is Brian Huberman. Just whilst accepting the topic of racism and anti-Semitism, I'd just like to ask each individual candidate who they hope and desire will be the Prime Minister of this country in December.
Herschel Reid, I'm the rabbi of the Brighton Home Hebrew Congregation, with synagogues on New Church Road at the moment, and Middle Street. I have a question about, which relates to anti-Semitism, but not related to Israel. Anti-Semitism comes in many guises. It's been called a mutating virus which attacks in different ways at different times and in different places. Historically, though, there are two things which have constantly been attacked within the Jewish community in different places, going back over 2,000 years. And that is bris milah, which is circumcision of a Jewish boy at the age of 8 days or as soon as possible after that, and shechita, which is slaughter according to the Jewish religion. And often that is something which is attacked. And we've seen this in Europe, in Holland, Switzerland, Scandinavian countries. In Germany there was actually circumcision written on Miller was outlawed for certain parts of Germany until Angela Merkel stepped in. And I'd like to know what your opinion about this is. Thank you.
there's a lady in the red. I'm sorry, I don't know your name. Apologies.
Good evening, everybody. My name is Naomi Levy. I think that there is no issue. There is anti-Semitism that's rising again. I think all the candidates will all agree with that. Since this is a question relevant to racism and to anti-Semitism, and since you're all gracious enough to be here, I'd like to address to each of you, but probably especially to Labour candidate, the Conservative candidate. To the Labour candidate, can you, I'm sure you have some conversations with your leader, could you perhaps give us some clarity, those of us who were fortunate or unfortunate enough to see the particular interview that he did give, what is his problem with offering an apology, just generally, on behalf of the Labour Party, regarding the clear proof of anti-Semitism? To the Conservative member, we hear about Islamophobia as well, which is equally dangerous. However, I would like some clarity as to There is anti-Semitism in the Tory party as well. Maybe not, there is. Maybe not quite so foremost in people's minds at the moment, but nevertheless there has been, there probably is. Can you give us some assurance that there will be equally rigid, oversight and overseeing that there will be no racism? I'm not talking about Israel now because we are having an election in this. I've just come back from Israel, but I don't think Israel is really the question right now. At the moment, we Jews here in Europe, we're here, and one of the reasons we're here is to protect Israel and the state of Israel, the Jewish homeland. And the first way we do that is to protect the safety of the Jewish community in this country and the rest of Europe to live in the safety that we thought we had. So I'd like that to be addressed specifically, and to the course, the Liberals, the Greens and the Independents. I'd like, please do give your opinions as well on the current situation, which is, I can tell you, frightening to this community, not just in Brighton and Hove. I'm from London originally. I went to a Jewish school, JFS. When I was 11, I got beaten up. Let's just say, it's the whole UK.
Okay. I'm going to take one more question in this round, because otherwise I think our candidates are going to run out of paper scribbling. Darren. No. Right. The exercise is fine.
Hi, I'm Darren Abrahams. I have a question for all the candidates, but I think particularly for the Labour and the Conservative candidates, is that although I have a concern about anti-Semitism and racism in general, I also have a concern about the weaponisation of anti-Semitism as a political tool. And I'd like to ask the candidates what they feel about that and how it's being used as a batting point between the major parties as it seems to be scoring one-upmanship.
Right. I'm going to ask the ladies. Very traditional. Well, there were an awful lot of questions there. A couple of them were very general. A couple were specifically to the gentleman on either end. So I think maybe if the three people in the middle start, then we can then go to Peter and Robert afterwards. So address whatever you'd like, in whichever order you'd like to go. Hello, Frank.
I'm the musician. I know this, shouldn't I? Okay, so it's working now. I'm going to start with the easy question. Who do you want to be Prime Minister? Brian, of course I would want Joe Swinson to see number 10. It would be nice to have a dynamic, a woman, again, younger, smart and modern, rather than another two old blokes providing politics from the last century, basically. Next to something, let's move on to the more difficult stuff here, and Israel and anti-Semitism. Now, let's start with Israel first. And the Lib Dems are a party that hold equality very dearly. It's even in our preamble. We've been fighting for it for years, and we'll continue that fight on all levels, be it in our country or on the international stage. Now, in terms of Israel, because that's, we don't, it's always the question of balancing your involvement with what's going on abroad, and how much do you want to intervene, and how much do you want to patronise other countries, how they have to live. And we favour a two-state solution, and we are clear that we would recognise the state of Palestine as well. And I don't know whether you're aware, we have an MP amongst us, or currently a candidate, Leila Moran, who is of Palestinian background, and she's actually tabled a motion in Parliament to have that debated and to recognise that state. But we also want to strengthen Israel and see a peaceful solution in Israel. And so it's rather than taking sides, we're trying to get peace into that area. Anti-Semitism, I tell you what, that is very, very dear to me as well, and our party, because obviously, again, we will fight it, and we have taken on the IHRA definition of anti-Semitism, very clear. And by way of background, I don't know, who has been at the Faith Hustings the other day? A couple of you? Okay, I will give a slight background information about myself. I am a very international person. I hold 2 passports. I am from Switzerland, but also from Britain, Swiss-British. But half of my family is also from Austria, from Vienna. And you can see where this is going. So my mother was born during the Second World War, and my family has experienced the Second World War, and they've experienced what happened to Europe during that time. You know, and my grandma, I said it the other day, she used to be a teacher, and she used to refuse to give the Hitler salute in class, and she got into troubles obviously for that, so we've been fighting this. And I've been discussing this with my family as well, what's going on at the moment and the parallels we can draw from back then. And I think the rabbi made a very good comment when he said anti-Semitism is like, it's like a virus that attacks in different kinds and different ways. And I think we see that it's kind of always there. Sometimes it's dormant, you can't quite grasp it, but it's never really gone, isn't it? And now and again, these forces, these dark forces, come to the surface and erupt like a volcano. And I think that's when it gets dangerous. And we've seen it in history before when that volcano erupts. And I fear something is going on in this country right now, and it is a very, very dangerous and a very dark force. And we must grasp it by its root, because there is only one answer to anti-Semitism, and that is zero tolerance. You know, as a Lib Dem, I'm tolerant for all sorts of peoples and beliefs, but racism, anti-Semitism, there is no tolerance there for that. And we must look carefully and hold these people to account who incite hate, who do hate speech, and who are racist to each other. And I've seen it also with the Lib Dems, from MPs that came over from the Labour Party. We had Luciana Berger join us, and she told us tales how she did not feel safe in the Labour Party. And we hear stories from Chaka Umuna, who has seen how the Labour Party operates from within. And these are horrifying stories, you know, and I don't say that Jeremy Corbyn is an anti-Semite himself, I don't think he is. And, but there is something going on in that party that is very, very dark, and they have a following that is toxic. And to be honest, I experienced it myself, because you know what, when people are against Jews, it's not just Jews, it's against anyone who doesn't fit in their very narrow-minded picture. And guess what, me as an internationalist, of course I had racist attacks as well. I had it on social media, I reported it instantly, and it's always the people, you can always see the red rose in their profile picture, so you know it's Labour. And that is the problem, they're there, and it's not done enough. We know the reports have been done. You know, the Labour Party is now under investigation by the Equity and Human Rights Committee, a commission. And we know the reports have been there, and I think more needs to be done. And just by way of, you know, inspiration against Peter, you will have more to say on that. Dame Louise Ellman from the Labour Party said, under Jeremy Corbyn's leadership, anti-Semitism has become mainstream in the Labour Party. Jewish members have been bullied, abused and driven out. Anti-Semites have felt comfortable, and Jews and Jeremy Corbyn must bear the responsibility for this. And you know, when you say the Labour Party is no longer a safe space for Jews, that is alarming, that is very alarming, and I question this, and I think we need to say no to this, and we need to deal with this. I don't think that the Labour Party is doing it. And Peter, I'm looking at you, and I want to know from you maybe more how you, because you know, I questioned you the other day. I said it's a choice for you as well to stand for the Labour Party. You're choosing to stand as a candidate of a party that is under investigation, and you're using their infrastructure, their campaign mechanisms, and you said you want to heal the party from within and change it. What are you doing as a person to make that change? And why is the Labour Party not doing more? Like now, during this election, I can't see anywhere publicised. They know they have a problem. Why don't they say, if you're being attacked, be it as a candidate or a campaigner, by someone who is associated with the Labour Party, report them to the Labour Party, we will expel those people. That should be the answer. We should say no to these people, but they're not doing this, and this is worrying. This is very worrying. Anyway,
I'll stop here. I'm going to ask you to address, well maybe I'll ask you to address the rabbi's question, please, which was about ritual.
Oh yeah, sorry. I've got so carried away with all this. So ritual slaughter, actually the Liberal Democrats we feel very strongly about animal welfare, and we even have an express provision in our manifesto to recognise animal sentience, so that animals have perceptions and can feel, and we feel we need to mitigate and reduce any suffering for animals. Now, if you kill an animal to eat, that is always going to be in some ways brutal, because you kill an animal, and I don't think it depends on whether it's in a religious background or any other person who eats animals. So the standard should be different for Jewish people as to any other person. It should be, an animal should always killed in a way that the suffering is reduced as most as possible. And I understand for kosher food, the rituals is as such that it has very, very strict rules and is actually meant to reduce the suffering. And I don't know whether, I've read the rules and they're very complicated, and someone who's meant to perform the slaughtering must be actually well trained to do it. And if it was done like that, it would actually be, I wouldn't say humane, but it would be in a way that reduces suffering. The problem is, again, with any kind of food production, when it gets industrialized or when it goes out of these hands. And we know that there is kosher food from America in an industrialized kind of way done. That is absolutely shocking, and we've seen footage from Peter, for instance.
I think we need to address what around ritual slaughter here.
So we would recommend pre-stunning, actually, which already 80% of slaughter is already pre-stunning. So that's the Lib Dem stance on that. Regarding circumcision, I'm going to be very short on that. I don't have a strong opinion. Again, it belongs to rituals of your community. I have no problem with that, neither does my party, as long as it's obviously performed in a normal kind of medical, safe environment. And I've been told by male colleagues that apparently until not that long ago in this country, it was quite the norm, actually. So, yeah.
Sir, I know that you asked all candidates about signing on to the Israel Pledge, and I will come back to that, so I haven't forgotten that.
I feel like we could spend the entire Hustings discussing these topics, I will try and be brief. Anti-Semitism is not just present in politics, it's present in life, as is Islamophobia, as is racism, as is homophobia. And the problem is that it's latent, and we've almost normalised it. And we've all heard those comments, I'm sure, when people talk about Jews, they can't help but talk about money or something, and it's these little comments, and you hear them, and you don't quite register what they're saying at first, but that's anti-Semitism. And it doesn't matter whether it's latent or whether it's really obvious, outright abuse. So we need to tackle it as a society. This isn't just a political problem. I was talking to some Muslims the other night, and they said they couldn't bear to vote Conservative because of the Islamophobia. And I hear from people a lot, they don't want to vote Labour because of anti-Semitism. I think as well, I must just touch on the fact that the Labour candidate has apologised, and while I empathise greatly with his situation, one cannot apologise for somebody else. And if you felt very strongly about something, you would leave that party. And I am, as an independent, I am not standing for a party simply because I don't want a leader corrupting my thoughts, and I want to have my principles above my leadership. I just want to come on to this manifesto, which I only just saw, and I misread the beginning. It says the 10 commitments. I thought it said the 10 commandments. But actually, just skim reading, because we've only just got this, I haven't had a chance to really prepare. Everything in this manifesto, unlike most manifestos, I could kind of get on board with, because they're very balanced, they're about common sense, they're about humanity, and I think it's really important that we all take note of those. When it comes to Israel, I think what the lady at the back said was that this is Britain, we can't get too involved, and we have to focus on here first and foremost. But I also appreciate, from a Jewish perspective, that Israel is central to your beliefs and your core ethics. And for me, a two-state solution isn't really a solution. I think we need to focus on peace and harmony and making sure everyone is happy. And however that manifests, we have to support that. In circumcision and ritual slaughter, it crosses boundaries because, of course, there's the freedom of children's rights and animal welfare, which, of course, I support. But I support also freedom of choice and the freedom to practice your religion in whatever way that is. any country, violent protest, violent acts cannot be gone into negotiation with, so I stand by all of that. Okay, so that is a very good question, because as an independent I have no vested interest, because I dislike all the leaders equally. They all have their merits. They all have their merits, and I don't like to speak badly of people. Boris Johnson's let me down. Jeremy Corbyn's let me down probably the most, because when he became leader I really thought he was going to implement some really good left-wing ideology and sell it better, but he hasn't, and he hasn't been a good leader in terms of my idea of leadership. Boris Johnson I've actually met quite a few times, and he is what you think. Whatever you think, he is that. So that's all I'm going to say on that. And Jo Swinson is, I admire Jo Swinson a lot, but the thing with Jo Swinson is I can't forget the things that she voted for when she was in the Lib Dem Conservative coalition. She voted pro-austerity and anti-tax on bankers' bonuses, things that Liberal Democrats shouldn't really be voting on, the things that are just common sense. And so we have to remember that she was pro-austerity, so she has helped guide us to where we are now. So in terms of who I want, I can work with anyone because I'm an independent and I believe in collaborative politics. And I believe it could be me, and maybe in a few years it will. But right now I'm happy to work with whoever is leader. Let's face it, they're not all going to be the same people in a few months, I'm sure anyway. And we'll probably have another election and another Prime Minister in a few months. I hope not, but in terms of, I can work with anyone, so I'm happy to work with anyone.
Thank you very much, Chair. Thank you very much for the questions. I'll go through them in order. I'll try to be quick. We did receive the Jewish Manifesto. What's happened with that from the point of view of the three candidates in the city of Brighton and Hove is discussed between myself, Caroline, and Alex. And I think a response was given, and I think we are. I think we say yes to the pledge with some comments. And those comments are around BDS. I think the current Green Party policy is that we favour, in principle, the use of boycotts, divestment and sanctions. That with respect to Israel, that would be in relation to, I think, well, my personal view is very specific, I think, investments in occupied territories, not with respect to the entirety of the state of Israel, for example. So, I mean, one of our other policies is very clearly that the Palestinians' elected bodies need to recognise the state of Israel and the right of the state of Israel to exist. So, I mean, one term that has been used is the term post-Zionism, if you like. And I think that's where we are. The state of Israel exists. We cannot question that. We should not, we must not question that. And other areas of the pledge are with respect to IHRA. I personally signed the IHRA definition and examples. My party locally has signed the IHRA example,
but not nationally.
As part of a council, Brighton Hove Council pledge when I was a councillor. I think the party nationally is in the process of so doing. We are in favour of a two-state solution, working towards a two-state solution, and some interesting discussion of that in a film I'm sure you're aware of called The Gatekeepers, in which Mossad generals talk about the need to achieve peace, and this reflects Green Party policies on the need to pursue non-violent solutions in the process of conflict resolution. So that's our direction of travel on that. In relation to the question about what happened on Friday in Israel, dealing with similar issues every day, I'm conscious that Israel is often judged by the standards of a European democracy, and it is in a situation of conflict in a very different geographical region. So I have a great deal of sympathy with the question, and I think, we need to contextualise. I think the context in which Israel sits geographically is very different to that of countries against which it's commonly judged. who would I like to desire? Who would I desire as Prime Minister on the 13th of December? Without saying the obvious, Caroline Lucas, I think that's probably unlikely at this point. My desire at this point is for a hung Parliament, following which there is a rapid change of leadership in political parties, and possibly interim Prime Ministers in the person of someone like Kenneth Clarke or Margaret Beckett. I think Kenny Stanley, maybe neither of them are standing, unfortunately. It could be. Margaret is, okay. Oh, maybe Margaret did it. I don't know. I think comments have been made about Boris, about sorry, Mr. Johnson, about Jeremy Corbyn, and about Joe Swinson. And I won't go back down. I think that sort of agree with the speaker's comments. About circumcision and ritual slaughter. I mean, our manifesto comment on this would be that we defend the right of all faiths to express their faith in whatever way they see fit within the bounds of the international human rights agreement. So, I mean, I've got no particular view on circumcision, as long as that's done minimise discomfort. Ritual slaughter, there's been a lot about this recently. I think our view on this would be that pre-stunning is preferable, and we would move to open discussions with the faith communities on adjustments that could be made, but without any plan to stop ritual slaughter or outlaw it anyway. So, the process of legal engagement about that. The other two questions were, seems to be sort of specifically for my Labour and Conservative colleagues. I mean, obviously, from anti-Semitism, the Green Party absolutely abhors anti-Semitism as a particularly awful form of racism. We want to see it eradicated wherever it arises. We've seen a rise in hate crime over the past 3 years, and I think that is associated with discussions around Brexit. It's associated with populism that's increasingly prevalent in this country. But I think it's also associated with the reduction in the ability of authorities such as ours here in Brighton and Hove Council to respond, and that goes back to the resources that authorities have to engage with communities, to resource their community safety teams, to resource the police in order to address hate crimes, including anti-Semitism, wherever they arise. So that's a question about austerity, it's a question about funding to public bodies to address these issues. I think that would take it in.
Well, thank you, Fiona, for the introduction and for inviting me along this evening. Now, the first question was about the Pledge for Israel. I just tried to look this up on my phone and I couldn't find it. But if it's referring to these, the commitments, I would certainly sign up to that.
There's some overlap, but it's slightly different.
Okay, well, I think it's highly likely I probably wouldn't sign up, though I haven't read the text. I'd be a great supporter of Israel as a member of Parliament. I used to run Mike Wethering's office in the House of Commons, and he was a big supporter of Israel, and I've certainly helped Mike. I recognise lots of faces in the room because for the last 5 years, I've lived as a neighbour to the Orthodox synagogue on New Church, and I've regularly been called in at the appropriate moment to flick the lights on if required on a Saturday when required. And I'm also the official honey supplier to the synagogue after my honey has been rigorously tested to kosher standards. So I think I know synagogue life fairly well. There was a question about the terrorist attack in London on Friday, and the theme that I took from that is the difference in standards between the way Israel is treated and the way other countries are treated. Not so much our country, but held up against other countries around the world. One of the clauses in the IHRA definition of anti-Semitism is the way in which Israel people use criticism Israel as a cover for anti-Semitism, but you won't hear a peep from the same people about other atrocities that are taking place around the world. So that's what I took from that question. I completely agree that if Israel shot a terrorist, which they should do, just as our police should have done on Friday, people are up in arms about it, but it's exactly the right thing to do. The third question was about who should be Prime Minister. I think that was probably more of a question to catch Peter out rather than me, but I think I obviously want Boris Johnson as Prime Minister, obviously. And I think Boris Johnson would be a great supporter of Israel as well, whatever other things that people might think about him, and he certainly does have his foibles, shall we say. He would be a great supporter of Israel. I don't think there's any doubt in this room about that. There was a question from the rabbi, a tough question, about circumcision and ritual slaughter. So my own view on this is, of the long list of characteristics, traditions that I admire about the Jewish community, and the list is long, circumcision and slaughter aren't my favourites, I have to say. But as a conservative, just built into the way that I operate on almost any subject is I'm not always steeping in to change things that I don't like. I don't think that's how society should operate. You know, just the principle of not throwing the baby out with the bathwater. This is just the way I operate on any subject. The community needs to decide these things, and traditions and histories, these are the ties that bind people. So you shouldn't be rushing in always to change things you don't like, especially if an outsider doesn't understand. I mean, many of the traditions in any society you look at from an outsider, they're quite curious, but these are the things that bind people together, and this is how a civilization has endured thousands of years, and, well, one of the oldest and most successful and most proud civilizations in history is here today on an island in Hove, thousands of miles away from the homeland. So I think that's an amazing thing, and it's these traditions that keep people close. The lady in the red mentioned Islamophobia, and I think my answer on that, I think, is to try and answer the difference between, I think I'll try and answer it as a member of the Conservative Party and the culture that I've experienced. And I think the parties operate very differently, and I think people have different motivations for joining. And I'm going to try and not be critical in any way, or as Darren said, weaponise the subject. I didn't join the Conservative Party out of anger. I didn't have this long list of things that I was angry about and I wanting to change the world. I think I joined it from a place of positivity. There's things I love, and I thought, how can I? And I think I came to politics from a love of architecture. I mean, it's not everybody's most pressing issue, but that's probably what drew me into politics. A love of our local history. It was about the bandstand on the seafront, and I think one of the things that made me decide which party to join was Councillor for Central Hope, Amber, who lives just around the corner, was campaigning to save the history. So I think I came to politics from a love of something rather than an anger about something. You know, maybe a negativity. It's not actually any criticism what brings someone to politics, but it's my interpretation of some of the underlying reasons why people get involved in politics, and it is perfectly legitimate, by the way, to get into politics because you're angry about something. Of course it is. But I think the way you can see people behave on, say, social media, and I say this as a candidate and an activist, and I don't know if Beatrice would back me up on this, but I'm sure you've received a similar sort of treatment. Is anything I post on Facebook, anything at all, whether it's something positive, something political, something that needs debate, it always inevitably ends up with me being abused. I have thick skin, it doesn't bother me in the slightest. But it's the treatment, it's an unpleasantness within, and I can see how the different parties act. When it's the other way around, when I look at the comments, say Peter Kyle's Facebook page, which I'm a supporter of, a member of, I'm not sure what the expression is, he gets permanent abuse from almost every single person on there. Many people like him a lot, lots of people say nice things, but it's just pure abuse on his Facebook page.
You go to the right page.
Facebook group, whatever whatever it's called anyway. And when I look at who's
It's not my family page.
they're not Conservative members. So that's, and they don't seem to have any sort of Conservative sympathies. It's just a different approach. So when I hear that there's Islamophobia in the Conservative Party, I can imagine it's quite easy to find examples of people who have chosen their words wrong and said the wrong thing and said something Islamophobic. Not locally, but I think I can quite imagine that sort of thing happening. But there isn't a deep Islamophobia in the Conservative Party. It's a very friendly environment. We don't get involved in these sort of deep, angry discussions. It's not what motivates us in the first place. So I think it's different. I'm not denying it. If there was a problem, someone should immediately be dealt with, and I think that there's strict mechanisms to do so, but it's not something I've ever seen. It would just stand out like an absolute sore thumb if somebody started to talk about this kind of subject. It's not what motivates us. And Darren's question was the last one about weaponisation. I thought it was quite interesting that Darren there was a long walk to bring the microphone around to Darren, when he's probably the one person in the room with the loudest voice. He doesn't need a microphone. I completely agree that there shouldn't be weaponisation of these subjects, but it's very hard to talk about them in a mature way without dividing opinion. And I hope I've done my best to try and answer the questions tonight without weaponising the subjects in any way. Thank you.
I'll start by just saying thank you to Sussex Friends of Israel for putting this on. Thank you to Fiona for chairing it. But most of all, thank you to everyone here for coming out tonight on a Sunday evening. It is a really great thing that you've done. And I know the reason is not just anti-Semitism, but a lot about anti-Semitism, but also about a real caring for our community and the Jewish community here. This is the third Jewish hustings that I've done, and it's always been a very large, well-attended meeting. Let me start by saying the thing that Jeremy should have said the other night on television, but didn't, and that is sorry. I'm saying it. I'm saying sorry, not in a corporate way, not in a bland way to try and shunt the issue to one side. I'm saying it, believe me, from the very bottom of my heart. This issue of anti-Semitism that has crept into the Labour Party, and we have failed to drive it out with enough resolution and determination and success, has caused deep anxiety to the Jewish community locally, but not just the Jewish community locally. We live in a community that cares about how we take care of each other. And when the broader community sees that we're not doing so successfully, then it causes very, very deep anxiety there too. And I feel that, and I share it. And believe me, I have tried my absolute hardest to deal with it. Now, what have I done? The first thing I've tried to do since I've been a candidate here since 2013 is to really understand the community of which I'm not a part. I'm not Jewish and I'm not religious, but I know it's a very important community here locally. And I've got to say, for all of the rabbis that we have here presently, and all of the ones that we've had in my time here, all of them have embraced me, all of them have welcomed me and welcomed my incessant questioning. And you as a community have been remarkably open-hearted with me, and for that I'm extremely grateful. Even during the dark times, when my party has failed you, you to me have been very, very kind. You've had the conversation with me, you've continued the conversation with me, and it really matters. Now in that time, I've been to Auschwitz 3 times in total. I've been to Auschwitz twice since I've been a Member of Parliament with the Holocaust Education Trust. I've been to Israel twice with Labour Friends of Israel. I happily sign the pledges here, and I happily support them. And I believe, when I read down this list, that I've done a lot in the 4 years I've been a Member of Parliament to advocate for them, including the one which covers circumcision and meat slaughter, which I'm, again, happy to restate my support for. One of the things that's frustrated me about the language of the Labour Party, and Jeremy, is that he personally says that he's against racism in all its forms. I know that that's not good enough, because racism takes many forms. Racism has to be understood in its own terms, because each one has a different history, it has a different culture, and it affects different people in different ways. And the same goes for anti-Semitism. So I have tried my absolute hardest on trips to Auschwitz, on trips to Israel, where I spent half the time in Palestine, half the time in Israel, going down to Gaza, travelling the length and breadth of Israel, speaking to people from all parts of society, from political to security, through to civil society, and those who are doing their absolute best to foster relationships between the Jewish communities and Arabic as well. And that's why I've come back determined to try and challenge this issue within the Labour Party. Now, in that time, I have spoken to Jeremy many times. I've been to see Jeremy specifically about anti-Semitism and sat with him in his office to talk about it. And I'm very happy to talk about what I've said, because the two, I think, key conversations were the conversation I had with him personally in his office, and the things I've done in front of every Labour MP in our weekly meeting on Monday evenings at 6 o'clock, where every Labour MP and every Labour peer get together, called the PLP meeting. Now, I put to Jeremy, very, very specifically, the cases of anti-Semitism we have locally, some of which are alleged and need investigating, and some of which are absolutely categoric and need dealing with absolutely instantly. Not through a very long process, but a very, very rapid process. And I've said to Jeremy two things, and I did so lastly, just 2 weeks before the general election was called. The first is, why are some people who have very, absolutely categorically stepped outside the IRA definition of anti-Semitism? Why? I went through some examples, you all know them, and they're pretty horrific. And secondly, I asked Jeremy, in front of all Labour MPs and our party, to consider something very carefully. Why is it that very recently, considering we're a party that's 110 years old, why is it very recently some people who have anti-Semitic views and are susceptible to perpetuating anti-Semitism, why is it they feel that the Labour Party is their home? And I asked Jeremy to personally consider this. What is it about his worldview that seems to be attracting people who have an anti-Semitic worldview? And those are the two things that I've tried to do. I also actively look into my own local party. If there is anybody that says anything in a personal forum in which I'm at, in an online forum, a shared forum, whether it be emails to me, any correspondence which breaks the IRA definition of anti-Semitism and its examples, it is reported to the party. If I believe it has anything broader or worse, or has any kind of hate crime allegation to it, then it's reported directly to the authorities. And I don't leave it there. I follow it up personally, and I follow it relentlessly. Now, the question's obvious for many people because it's been put to me so often, and put to me by Beatrice tonight. And again, this answers Darren's question about weaponisation. I don't believe what Beatrice said was weaponising anti-Semitism. I think it is her duty as an opposing party to point out to me that these things exist in our party, to challenge me on it, just as anybody else should, and to present an alternative to us. Not just as a party, but as a character, as a candidate. So, why haven't I left the party? There's been times in the last few years when I have considered it. There have been times in the past where Louise Ellman, Luciana Berger, who both of whom are very close friends of mine and I've been in contact with still today, have urged me to leave with them, have urged me to leave the party since. But then there are other people in the party, Margaret Hodge, Ruth Smeeth and others, who have decided to stay and fight because they believe it is their duty as Jewish women to stay and fight. And they are urging me to stay because I am a fighter. I'm not somebody who's sat on the sidelines on this. And they believe if I go, their fight will get harder. And we all know that according to the Jewish Chronicle, 40% of Jewish people want to vote for Labour. They want to vote for Labour, but are prevented from voting Labour because only 6% of Jewish people say they will be voting Labour. Therefore, there is an urge not just to abandon the Labour Party, but to get it back to a point where you have faith in it again. So it's not an easy decision for me to make. Now, I've also consulted very often and spoken about this very openly with lots of people throughout our community, including different religious leaders from different faiths, including our local rabbis. And it is true, the joke, that if you ask 4 rabbis a question, you get 5 answers back. Even amongst our community here, there is not one view as to what I should do. But when I look at the big issues facing our country, anti-Semitism, the dark forces that have crept into our politics, English nationalism, populism, Marxism, all these revolutionary, destructive forces that have crept into our body politic, including Islamophobia, none of them will be driven out by accident. The change we need in our politics, both as a party and parties, and our body politic, will not just happen without a fight. And if the right people aren't there to fight, then the fight will get an awful lot harder and we will go further down a direction which is darker. We know that. We know it. And when I look at the big issues facing our country outside of these big dark forces, and you look at Brexit, you look at the starvation of our public services, you look at the tone of our politics that's been talked about here tonight, all of these problems can only be solved via the Labour Party. Because the Labour Party is the only other party that can form a government. So what I want to do is what I believe a majority of people in the Jewish community want to do, which is to get the party back to the point where it has a broader appeal, where people who need protection from racism but at the moment feel that the party is a problem, get the protection they need and can once again put the faith in it that they need, and that we can again aspire to be the country, to be the party which can lead the country with confidence and the support of every religious faith, every non-religious faith, and unite the different geographical parts of our country, the working class through to the middle class, and everybody else, which we've done in the past and done in the recent past, because that's what I believe you need to do. Now, I'm not going to dodge the final question, which is about who I think should be Prime Minister. I have refused 3 offers to go onto the front bench. The first offer I refused to go onto the front bench was because I felt I wasn't ready to be on the front bench, I wasn't equipped, and I take these things very seriously. When I hear that somebody who's been an MP for 5 minutes wants to be leader of the Labour Party or leader of any party, and then therefore by definition Prime Minister, I think there's something wrong with them. I think that being an MP is a difficult job, and you owe it to really get the skills you need before you move forward. The other times I didn't go to the front bench because it would have been wrong for me to go on there, because I disagree so profoundly with some of the direction that the party's been led to. So I also voted no confidence in Jeremy. I also campaigned for 2 other leaders to replace him in the time that I've been there, and 2 alternatives. So would I rather be going into this general election with another leader? It would be absurd of me to sit here and say otherwise, because my actions, my votes, and my speeches and my words have spoken for themselves. I also voted against this general election, one of only 20 MPs out of 650 who tried to stop this general election happening. We should be up there trying to solve your problems, not asking you to solve our problems as politicians, which is what this election is about. But I also know that you want us up there finding consensus, and I'm a consensus politician. I also know that more than half of the public don't want to make the choice between Boris Johnson and Jeremy Corbyn. So what I wanted us to do was to be up there, sorting the problems out, sorting our parties out, and coming back with an offer which actually more than half of the country do relish making a choice and feel excited about. But we are where we are. What I want to do is to do what I've had in the last couple of years, which is a hung parliament where backbenchers like me, and I will remain on the backbenches even if Labour win, backbenchers are as empowered as possible. But I want to have the most amount of power. So I would be happy in a hung parliament having Jeremy Corbyn as Prime Minister, because I know I would have more power than has been the case so far.
Sure.